This session is about cloud computing and Linux. It will be introduction course. So let's understand like what is basically before going to DevOps, what are all the basic concepts like what is continuous integration, DevOps, what is IT, what is cloud computing. So all these concepts I will going to cover in this introductory session. So let's start. Let's try to understand few of the concepts. So it is related to cloud computing. So before going to DevOps and cloud computing, there are few concepts like what is waterfall. There are waterfall and agile. Waterfall used to have in the earlier stage there was a waterfall methodology, and nowadays they are using most of the things like agile scrum or agile. So there are variations. So let's understand before going to waterfall and agile, what is IT in terms of software industry. So information technology. So for example, I will give a laptop. Laptop having hardware, software, network, storage. Like we will have a CPU, RAM, and everything that is hardware. And storage we have a SSD and or HDD, and also like softwares which is running in your software. So all are correlated here, right? With software cannot run without hardware, or in the backend should store their data, which requires storage. So similarly, simply keeping storage will not have any use, or simply keeping hardware without software, without OS, there is no use. So each are correlated here, even networking, all are correlated. So similarly, when it comes to large scale, so when in the software delivery field, so these are combined and delivering the software is called information technology. So we are transmitting in general, we are transmitting the data. So we required these things like network, hardware, storage. So without this, we cannot transmit the data. So in a way, how we can efficiently transmit the data or how we can efficiently deliver the software, that is called as information technology. So coming to waterfall and agile. So let's understand what is waterfall. These are all the methodologies where software delivery field who are working in the software they use in order to deliver the software. So basically, waterfall is a traditional linear approach where each phase is completed before moving to the next. For example, there is a certain goal feature which is already decided where initially they will have a client requirement. So based on the client requirement, there will be no any deviation. They will be working on linearly on the software delivery until they can deliver it completely. So that is called as waterfall. It's a sequence flow and completely it's a document driven. Everything is documented and there will be a milestone for each structure, rigid structures, you can say, and there will be no any flexibilities. In between you come and this feature is not good, we need this modification. There is no deviation in this. So we will deliver after that, we will take that as a new requirement. So until we deliver this, there will be no deviation. This is called as waterfall. The advantage is that easy to understand, predictable, scope is very linear, and budget is already decided, and timeline is determined in the beginning itself. We need 3 months to deliver this feature, and there will be a slow process. Everyone will be working on the same goal, and if some something which is going wrong, some everyone has to wait until the fixes happen. So disadvantages of agile methodology I was talking about, right? So lack of flexibility. There is no flexibility in the middle of the project. Like we cannot make changes as I told. Inefficiency, like as I told, like the feature will be delivered, then only the changes can be taken. There will be no or limited client involvement, and end of the delivery, client come to know this is not the requirement. This is the requirement that was expected, and again there is a rework on the same feature. So there is no anything like in between taking, and it's a very slow process. It's like a waterfall in a sequence way it will go. Agile method in the agile methodology, it is completely opposite to what waterfall is. Agile is interactive and flexible, and continuous improvement. Like there are minor fixes that needs to be done. In between, it can be taken. So how it is different from agile to how it is different from waterfall is that there are multiple automations involved. In terms of agile, there are small iterations. So it will be called a sprint. So sprint will be of 15 days, like 14 days, 2 weeks. And there will be a sprint planning and whatever the collaboration required from the feedback that we get from the customer, that changes will be adopted. So it's very adaptable to the changes. And this is where the DevOps come into picture. We need to continuously improve or continuously deliver or continuously integrate. So continuous integration will come into picture when the build will happen. So we are using several tools for that and as a DevOps team to automate this process. In when it comes to waterfall, most of the things were manual. Like even the build, people will build in the local and try to it will work in the local and try to deploy to the cloud server or on-premises server. It will not work. So basically, there are a lot of. So the key advantage of agile is that we will in the DevOps basically we will going to have like you will be using agile most of the time, like because of continuous improvement and continuous delivery we will automate all this continuous improvement delivery through various tools. It might be GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps, like that. And coming to like comparison, like agile is like we will have some disadvantages also, like in complexity, required skilled persons there, and lack of predictability, like scope of the timeline and all, it might increase, like because it is a continuous improvement. And documentation, there will be less documentation on this because there's a continuous improvement, and there is a we will going to do in between also we will going to take the changes. We will not have time to do this documentation and maintaining challenges and all those things. So we will have anyway everything will be logged and we will have a version control system. So there is very less of manual intervention, so there is no much documentation required. So let's understand now, go to the what is cloud computing. Basically, the cloud computing, why we use the cloud computing? Cloud computing in the sense there are multiple service providers. Earlier, what was the concept is that we will have a in-house data center. We will manage servers, networking, everything in the in-house data center. And because of the flexibility and scalability and even the cost, it was high. Because if we want to scale to multiple servers, we should have a requirement of multiple servers. We should procure multiple servers. When we scale down also, we have to bear the cost of those multiple servers. When it comes to cloud computing, we will have a remote database. We will have a remote data centers, and they will give us service based on pay as you go. Like whatever the service we leverage, only for that we will going to pay. For example, we will going to deploy a server, and that only for that server cost, how much time we actually used it, only for that we will going to pay. So this is called as pay as you go concept. So all the cloud service providers nowadays use the same pay as you go concept. Like how much ever we use, only that we are going to pay. So when it comes to like deployment and everything, the flexibility wise, we can deploy a server within a minute. We can deploy an application to the server within a minute. So this is how the flexibility is. We can scale up, even we can create automation to scale up our applications where based on like people's requirement. For example, we have seen Flipkart, Amazon, right? So sometimes the festival season will happen. That time there will be more customers which will be hitting those websites, Flipkart, Amazon. How it is managing based on the requirement, how much people will hit, it will scale the application. It will in the infrastructure wise also it will automatically scale. And whenever requirement is down, it will automatically scale down so that the cost also will be managed automatically. When it scales down, there will be less cost. When it scales up, it will be at that time they have to bear higher costs. So it is like that. So we don't need to have manual intervention there as well, and it's scalable very easily and flexible. And in terms of security, also more secured. There are multiple security we can enable for it, for the infrastructure, or it might be the DevOps. So these are all the basic cloud computing advantages that we will have. So nowadays, almost all the applications, all the major applications, major IT companies use are all from the cloud itself. There are multiple service models when it comes to cloud. One is IaaS, which is called as infrastructure as a service. Another is platform as a service, which is called as PaaS. Another last one is SaaS, software as a service. So let's understand these are all the major service models. Of course, there are nowadays coming up with multiple other service models. Let's understand these major service models initially. So when it comes to infrastructure as a service, so we will go, as I told, we will going to deploy a server in the cloud, and we will going to pay as per our use. So when we deploy a server, we will have a complete control over it, like its infrastructure or its networking, its storage, everything we will have control over it. So if we want to change something at the storage, we need to add higher capacity of storage. We can do it. So that is called as infrastructure. They will give a complete control to us. We can manage. We can also deploy application to it, but we have to manage everything. Platform as a service, where they will create a platform. For example, instead of database server, we can have a database service where we will going to only insert the data into it, like rows and tables. We can also modify those rows and tables. We don't have to worry about underlying infrastructure, where it is deployed, which server it is deployed. Everything we don't have to worry. Everything will be taken care by them. And even scalability, we can opt for the plans. Based on the plan, it will going to scale. We don't have to worry about it. So this is called as platform as a service. Software as a service, we might have used Gmail, right? And we might have used Outlook or Hotmail. So if we actually compare, like we don't know where they have deployed, which service they are using, nothing. We are just using the software. We are just leveraging the software. We are actually doing customization within the software, right? So that is called a software as a service. So they will provide even software to us, and we will going to use that software. We don't have to worry about anything. So that is called as software as a service. So major cloud service providers, there are a lot of cloud service providers as well, but major competitors in cloud service providers nowadays is one is Microsoft Azure Cloud, so which is managed by Microsoft, and Amazon Web Service, which is managed by Amazon, and Google Cloud Platform, GCP it is called as, which is managed by Google. So why we are actually going with the Azure? Let's understand that first. So there are multiple advantages even in terms of IT companies why adopting to Azure because of licensing. The licensing what they have, like if they have like earlier old licenses, that can be upgraded with very lesser costs, and they will have O365 advantage where they can leverage Outlook, MS Office, and everything in one place. And nowadays they are coming up with a lot of revolutions like OpenAI integration. You can see that where Sam Altman has come up to integrate with the Microsoft, the Chat GPT, and they have come up with Copilot and a lot of OpenAI and agentic services that are there in Azure, which is rapidly developing. So these are all the future advantages where Azure Marketplace has. So let's understand why we require the automation in these processes. As I told in the DevOps, like there is a continuous improvement, continuous delivery, right? There we require automation. Like how we going to deliver the product. So for example, Azure DevOps we'll going to build. For that build, we require certain steps, right? And that steps, for example, it should find certain file and it should actually create a artifact. I will come to what is artifact in later session. Artifact is basically a package, which using that package we are going to deploy the application. Uh, so those artifacts, which files, it should only take those many files. So there we require automation, and automation also required at the cloud level, where it will optimize our cost. For example, a VM is deployed, as I told, as a part of infrastructure as a service, where we are not using that VM on weekends, Saturday, Sunday, since it is a dev or test environment. A production environment, anyway, it should be live always, and we are not using like certain services in the weekend. So we can stop that we can create an automation to stop that service and start the service on Monday, so that the 2 days cost it will be there, no, that will be reduced. So if we come to multiple services, multiple VMs, if they have hundreds of services, stopping it will have a huge impact on the cost, right? So these are the places where DevOps team has to look into how we can automate, even in terms of deploying an infrastructure. For example, we can also deploy an infrastructure manually, going to the cloud portal, creating a virtual machine. That we will going to have that in the coming sessions, how we can create a virtual machines and everything. But there are ways we can also create complete infrastructure. Like if the team is required certain networking, a particular architect will give a certain requirement, like there are two front-end VMs and back-end web app services, and uh, there are certain networking should be done, and network should have certain subnets. VNet should have certain subnets, and it should have certain kind of networking. Everything can be written in code to deploy the automation and create an infrastructure over the cloud, and it can be destroyed in 5 minutes using the same code. We can leverage automations in many places, like as I told, like when we have to shut down certain services on weekends, we can create a job in the cloud itself, like to and automate it to shut down those services, and we can leverage the cost. There are many places where automation is required, where DevOps team has to look into and do the automate it, and will also reduce the human errors and improve response times, like everything. So without manual intervention, whatever we can automate, we should see whatever possible that we can automate in the IT industry. So that will be like it will reduce the human errors, and it will also reduce the burden on DevOps team. Like since it is automated, so everything will be taken care by automation. We can improve further automation also. Even deploying the infrastructure completely as per the architect that has been given, that we can deploy completely using like certain tools like Terraform, which is called as infrastructure as a code. So those tools. So that we will going to discuss in later sessions. So this is the overall idea of what is cloud computing. So as I told, like what is IaaS, what is PaaS, what is SaaS. So these are all the explanations which I given. This is the same thing. So major cloud service providers. We have Amazon also. Like why we are using like Azure, because of its marketplace. Like major industries are using, why major industries are using Azure. So as I told, and pay as you go service model. Integration of Microsoft product, as I told, 365, Office 365, Dynamics. So basically, they have Microsoft 365 product, where lot of tools they can integrate with the Microsoft Office 365, and these are all the common things which each and every cloud and global presence. Like it will have a lot of data centers in many regions. Like if we are deploying within Central India, so Central India also have a data center of Azure. So it will be sometimes even it is deployed under the sea. So those data centers also have, which is like highly secured way they have deployed those data centers. It will be encapsulated in a large metal container, and it will be deployed under the sea. So like that, they have lot of data centers worldwide. And SLA, they will going to provide Azure basically 99.9% SLA, which is only 0.1% there will be chances, right? So they are going to provide, they are providing now also 99.9% SLA. So there will be basically no downtime of any services, like even if you deploy Azure or anything. Basically in India, India region or even UK region, major regions, there will be no downtime until and unless there is a major disaster. Some data center itself is destroyed. Otherwise, there will be no downtime on the services. And as I told, like AI and machine learning capabilities, they are coming up with major tools, and they have hybrid collaborations also. Like if you have a servers in the on-premises, you can also leverage Azure. There is a different Azure software for it, so that you need to use to actually integrate with the on-premises to cloud. So they have all the possible way of like mismatching in the cloud services. So as I told, like what is the importance of automation? Like as I told, minimum human errors, cost saving, streamlining the process. So these are the places like we are using automations. We have to use automations in the as a DevOps people. It's our role to implement automation in wherever the possible way.